Picture this, two people walk into an interview and the interviewer asks, guy number one, what relevant projects do you have? Guy number one says, I built a Titanic survivor prediction project and an iris flower dataset prediction project as well. And guy number two walks into the interview right after and the interviewer asks him the exact same question, what relevant projects do you have? But here's the difference, guy number two instead says, I built a TikTok trend predictor, which you can actually use to upload your own sound and determine whether it will go viral or not. And I have this hosted live on a current website. He also says, I built a live emotion detector, which uses your webcam and you can determine on a UI what your current emotion is and you can see statistics for each emotion. Who do you think is getting hired? It seems obvious, right? But the thing is that people still make the same mistake as guy number one. You can teach a computer to do almost anything, yet 90% of people still pick the same old house predictor project, and even though it worked 10 years ago, that doesn't mean that it'll work today. So if you actually want to get a job, here are 11 machine learning projects that look good on your resume, recruiters will ask about, and it will actually help you get hired. These projects will take you from I know a little bit of Python to I can actually ship full machine learning systems. So what I'll do is that I'll give a short summary for each project, the tech stack that you can use, and 3 ratings. And these ratings are how fun the project is, the impact on your resume, and the skill depth. I've also gone ahead and added links for starter repos for each of these projects in the description, so check those out there. And at the end of the video, I'll actually talk about what you can do if you still can't decide on what project you want to build for your resume. So for the first project, it's actually EDA with a twist, and EDA is exploratory data analysis. And what we'll actually do is instead of using a boring CSV or random spreadsheet, you can actually use a custom data set. So you can use TikTok trends, you can use video game sales, whether a Netflix show will be popular or not, just something that'll actually be interesting that you will finish. And to actually visualize this project so you can show it to recruiters, you can use packages like Seaborn and Plotly. And now for the ratings. On the fun scale, we'll give it about a 6 out of 10. If I'm being honest, EDA isn't fun. It's something that companies expect you to do, but you're not supposed to enjoy it. It's just one of those boring tasks that you need to know to actually build proper machine learning projects and pipelines. And for resume impact, I'll actually give it a 7 out of 10. So this isn't the most flashy project and it's not revolutionary, but the fact that you actually built this on something that you cared about will actually allow you to talk about it better in an interview, or the recruiter will actually see that you're more passionate about it when you have it listed on your resume. So something like this will actually make a difference. So for skill depth, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. So you won't automatically get good at things like handling data sets or communicating findings that you found in your data in a real situation, but you're getting started with building these skills, so it's actually really important, and I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10. And for project number 2, we have custom classification. So forget all the boring data sets like MNIST, iris flowers, Titanic, those are all boring. So actually do something that's interesting. My personal recommendation is a Pokemon type classifier, and you can also extend this to things like emojis and detecting those from text messages. And with a project like this, you actually get started in using feature engineering and figuring out which models work best in what given scenario. And for the ratings, so for fun, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because this actually is where you get started with different models and you can actually answer questions like, why do we use linear regression here instead of random forest? You'll be able to answer those specific questions. And for resume impact, I'll actually give it a 6 out of 10 because seeing something like Pokemon classifier on a resume will definitely stand out, and this is probably going to be a reason that someone actually gets an interview. And for skill depth, I'll give it a 5 out of 10 because you actually get used to using classification techniques, but it's not getting you super familiar with all the different topics. It's just to get you started in the right direction. And for project number 3, you can build your own regression. So you can implement linear regression and regularization completely from scratch. And I know that does sound boring, but linear regression is a powerful model that's often used for predictions, and you can actually use it for things like predicting the price of a stock, predicting which sports team will win a game, but just don't bet your entire life savings on that prediction. And on the fun scale, I'll give it a 5 out of 10 because honestly, math isn't always fun and linear regression has a lot of it, but when it works, it actually feels really cool to see a live prediction of your model that you built. And for resume impact, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because it shows that you actually know what you're doing and you're not just calling random built-in functions. And for skill depth, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 because out of this entire list, if you're to choose one project that will actually help you get better as an engineer, this is definitely one of the ones that you want to build. And for project number 4, we have image classification. So instead of using the same old predictions for dogs and cats like everyone else does, you can do something fun like predicting which anime characters in a show at a given time, or predicting what you see in a screenshot. And this can actually be done with a technique called transfer learning, and you can do this on a small CNN or ResNet system. This is actually a really good project because it's practical and easy to explain, and obviously you don't have to pick anime. I just chose it because it's really fun, and with all the different types of art styles, it makes it a really interesting project to build out. And on the fun side, I'll actually give it an 8 out of 10 because computer vision projects are super fun to make, and when you can actually see your model functioning in real time, it's super cool to see. And for resume impact, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 because transfer learning is an important skill in the industry, and showing that you can actually apply it to many different types of scenarios is really important. And for skill depth, I'll actually give it a 7 out of 10 because it teaches you the entire computer vision pipeline from data collection, augmentation, training, and evaluation. And for project number 5, we have sentiment analysis on real social data. So you can actually build out your own sentiment classifier from scraping sites like Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok comments that can actually handle emojis, slang, and even different languages. And by doing a project like this, you'll actually learn the NLP skills that companies want their engineers to know how to use and what to use them for. And for fun, I'll actually give it a 6 out of 10 because scraping sites can be really tedious and boring, but once your model actually gets the correct labels, it'll be really cool to see it get it right. And for resume impact, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because NLP is everywhere right now and every company wants to use it. So the fact that you can take raw data and turn it into something useful is super impressive. And for skill depth, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because it teaches you skills like tokenization, data cleaning, data preparation, and many more. And these are also some of the really important skills that engineers are currently using to build out large language models. And for project number 6, we have a recommendation system. So you can actually build a system that can recommend songs or different TV shows, and you can use content-based and collaborative filtering to do this. And once you're done with this, all you need to do is build a simple UI to show it off, and you have an amazing project for your resume. And for the fun scale, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because you're building software that feels like Spotify or YouTube recommendations. And for resume impacts, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 because you're building what every company has, a recommendation system. And having something like this on your resume is not going to hurt your chances at all. It's only going to help you. And for skill depth, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because you learn things like matrix factorization, cosine similarity, cold start problems, and if you even build your own UI, you also learn things like basic deployment. And for project number 7, we have time series. So you can actually use this to predict the weekly view growth of a YouTube video, and then you can apply things like time series models like Profit or LSTMs. You learn about trends, seasonality, and feature engineering for sequential data. And for the fun scale, I'll only give it a 6 out of 10 because time series aren't the most fun thing or the most flashy, but knowing how to make forecasts for prediction models is super important. And for resume impact, I'll actually give it a 7 because time series aren't often found on ML engineers' resumes, but it honestly should be because companies always have to deal with how to figure out problems like these. And for skill depth, I'll actually give it an 8 out of 10 because sequential data is actually a whole different type of model from other types of classification, and with LSTMs, you actually think more about how you actually feed data into a model. And for project number 8, we have real-time emotion detection. So this is actually a really useful software that combines face detection with emotion classification, all directly on a webcam. So this is really helpful for people like streamers, UX designers, and accessibility apps. So for the fun scale, I actually give it a 9 out of 10 because this is a project that you can actually show to recruiters and even your friends. So seeing a project that can detect your face and read your emotions in real time is super cool to see and very rewarding. And for resume impact, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because it shows that you can build a low latency app with a UI that can actually be used as a shippable product. And this is what engineers at big companies really care about seeing that you can do. And for skill depth, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 because it teaches you face detection, model optimization, and UI integration. And for project number 9, we have MLOps. So we're going to automate a pipeline for a singular project. So what you're going to do is take one of the previous projects and we're going to automate everything from end to end. And this will include training, validating, deployment, model versioning, and model monitoring. And these are the skills that companies actually pay a ton of money for people to use. And for fun, I'll give it a 5 out of 10 because no one actually enjoys building MLOps pipelines. It's just something that you do and something that a company would expect you to do once you're on the job. And for resume impact, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because most bootcamp grads or university grads aren't taught this, and having a automated pipeline on your GitHub or your resume is actually really cool, and companies really care about it, and that puts you ahead of 90% of other people. And for skill depth, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because it teaches you things like Docker, CI/CD pipelines, experiment tracking, and model monitoring. This is what changes your projects from I built a machine learning model to I built a full automated system. And for project number 10, we have an AI agent that can do stuff. So we'll build an agent that can read a file and also figure out what it wants to do with it and also execute it. And it's a very short list, but building an agent that can combine multiple models that work together to complete a task is way harder than it sounds. And the good thing about this project is that you can actually scale up or scale down based on how complex you want want it to be. And for fun, I'll actually put it at a 9 out of 10 because building in agents are actually really fun, and seeing an agent that can just read a spreadsheet and give you results in a simple way feels insane. And for resume impact, I'll give it our first 10 out of 10. So building an agent is what every company is looking to do right now, and if you're able to build it and show that you can build more and build it even more efficiently, this is exactly what will put you in the most favorable position to get hired. And for skill depth, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because it teaches you orchestration, tool use, prompt engineering, and how to chain model outputs. And skills like this can be applied to almost any workflow in an AI engineering role. And for project 11, we have training a mini GPT from scratch. So everyone loves using LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude, but no one really understands how they work. So you're gonna build a tiny transformer from scratch, and you're gonna learn things like attention heads, embeddings, encoding and decoding, and how to train it to generate text character by character. And in terms of fun, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because building an LLM is definitely hard, but seeing something that you built actually generate text like the LLMs that you use every day is super rewarding, and it's insane. And for resume impact, there's no need to say more. I'll give it a 10 out of 10 because saying in the interview that I built an LLM from scratch would end an interview very quickly in a good type of way. And for skill depth, I'll of course give it a 10 out of 10 because learning things like attention, backpropagation, embeddings, and many more are super important, and it's such a good skill to have in 2026. But most importantly, you shouldn't feel like you have to finish all 11. Just pick one that scares you and go after that one. That's the one that you should be doing. And then once you're done, go on GitHub, upload it, and add a README that shows what you did so recruiters can see it very easily. The tip that I'll give you is that the key to picking the perfect project is picking something that you'll actually finish, because having something on your resume that's not the best is definitely better than having absolutely nothing on your resume. Let me know down below what projects you plan to build or what projects you're currently building right now, and I'll go ahead and rate them for you. And if you want to see more machine learning videos like this, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.